Welcome to Soul Spark. These episodes are brain snacks, brief, bite-sized reflections from my personal journey, designed to be digested in just a few minutes. I'm not here to tell you how to live or what to do. I'm just here to share my stories and the questions I've wrestled with along the way. My hope is that by sharing what's moved me, I might just spark something in your soul today. Let's dive in. Episode 16, The Wisdom of the Slow. Have you ever had one of those mornings where you walk outside, coffee in hand, ready to admire the progress of your hard work, only to find that nature had other plans? You've spent weeks nurturing something. Maybe it's a literal garden, or maybe it's a project at work or a new habit. You step out to find that your tender seedlings have been nibbled down to the soil. On August 21st, 2024, I stood in my garden and looked down at what was left of my greens. The culprits were everywhere, slugs, a dozen of them, moving with that agonizing, deliberate slowness across the damp earth. My initial reaction was sharp, visceral pulse of frustration. The manager inside of me, that performance-driven self that is obsessed with output, efficiency, and visible results, wanted to declare war. I wanted to protect my investment and force the harvest to happen on my timeline. But as I crouched there on the damp grass, I stopped looking at my ruined plants and started looking at the slug making its way across a wet stone. I watched it for a long time. It was moving at a pace that, to my human brain, seemed almost agonizing slow. But as I watched it, I realized something beautiful. The slug wasn't stressed. It wasn't looking up at the birds flying past and feeling completely inadequate because it couldn't fly. It wasn't apologizing for its space. It was simply moving at the exact speed it was designed for, fully experiencing every single millimeter of the stone beneath it. For 47 years, I lived my life as an exact opposite of that slug. I was a bullet train. I equated speed with success. I equated slowness with laziness or failure. We live in a world that absolutely worships speed. We want our packages delivered the next day, and we expect our personal growth to happen overnight. But living with a stopwatch in your hand is an incredibly exhausting way to live. When you run at the high velocity frequency, everything outside the window is just a blur. You lose your physical resonance with the earth. You lose the internal body truth that tells you when you're hungry for meaning or when you simply need to lie and fallow for a season. Watching that slug in the garden, a heavy realization settled into my chest. Society operates on a fast logic of machines, but we are not machines. Our souls operate on the slow, patient logic of the soil. Nature never rushes, and yet somehow everything gets accomplished. I realized that if the slugs were eating my seedlings, perhaps it was because I was trying to force something to grow out of season. Or maybe the garden was telling me to stop obsessing over the harvest and start paying attention to the soil. When you drop the stopwatch, your nervous system stops being a high voltage wire and starts being a root system. You stop looking at delays as failures and start seeing them as necessary moments of decomposition and rebirth. You realize that you can't get to the destination any faster by stressing about the journey. The destination is just a point on a map, but the slow crawl, the crawl is where you actually feel the texture of the world. So, I want to ask you, where in your life are you forcing a machine's frantic pace onto your human soul? What if the delay you're frustrated by right now is actually the exact pace you need to grow strong, unbreakable roots? What if the most radical thing you could do today is put down the stopwatch, take a deep breath, and trust the wisdom of the slow? What's sparking your soul today? Thank you for sharing this space with me today. As you step back into your world, remember that you don't need to have all the answers right now. Sometimes just noticing the question is enough. May this brain snack offer a moment of stillness in the noise. And remember, embrace the spark.